Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Your Honor, Lieutenant Governor, District Governor Jim Goyd, presidents of the Rotary clubs of Prince Edward Island and executive and members of all of our clubs. It's fantastic to be here tonight and see our province and the Rotary clubs of Prince Edward Island so well represented. And thank you for the invitation to be with you this evening to develop and deliver my first State of the Province address to this annual event. The Rotary motto, service over self, is one that we should all take to heart. At our very best, we on Prince Edward Island practice this well, and as well or better than any community in Canada or elsewhere. I've always enjoyed, even more so now as Premier, the opportunity to travel across our island and to witness how individuals, groups, and communities come together to serve each other. It's a practice that we can always improve and refine, and I commend the Rotary for being such a great example and a great contributor to this integral quality of our province. And it was wonderful to see my friend and colleague David Morrison represented for exemplifying those values with the Vocational Service Award this evening. This is a new year, and it's a good time to both take stock of where we are as a province and to look forward to where we need to be in 2016 and in the longer term. In about a month, as James's introduction reminded me, I'll mark my first year anniversary as Premier. And as we look to 2016 and the longer term future, it's important to assess the challenges that we face, the strengths that we enjoy, and the opportunities that are ours as we seize and we endeavor to seize those opportunities to work together to build a stronger and more prosperous Prince Edward Island. Our focus as a government continues to be on the themes people, prosperity, and engagement that were outlined in our election platform and articulated in last June's speech from the throne. We have made significant progress across those fronts, and we know that there's much more work ahead of us as a government and a province. There's no greater priority for our government than the economy, and it is that theme that I will principally speak to this evening. The economy underpins our ability to address needs and to serve each other. Our economic foundations provide islanders with work, with opportunities to grow and prosper, and with a sense of optimism for themselves and their families. As we start a new year, it's both good and necessary to assess our course to achieve prosperity and to consider the elements and the opportunities that are in place for us to grow, to reflect on what government needs to be doing to encourage prosperity, and most importantly, to determine how we can all work together to grow Prince Edward Island's economy for this and future generations. As many of you may know, or a few at the head table who would, I like to cook. And essential to any good food would be the ingredients. And I believe the following is a collection or a selection of the ingredients required for Prince Edward Island to achieve economic success. That we grow our economy at a rate greater than the national average. That we hustle to advance companies, sectors, and markets that will bring positive economic returns to Prince Edward Island. That we acknowledge and support the entrepreneurship and the leadership that will drive our success. That we have a talented and dedicated workforce that will continue to build on our reputation for top quality goods and services. In addition to those four elements, the fifth is that we develop our reputation and make our brand stronger and more consistent here at home, across Canada, and in strategic local markets, in strategic global markets. As we consider the economic prospects for Prince Edward Island in 2016, we must take serious account of national and international economic conditions. experts tell us that Canada and the world face a period of slow or no growth. We are in the midst of major economic turbulence worldwide and across Canada. Economic leaders at every level have signaled caution about economic prospects and the consequent impacts. In fact, 2016 looks very different today than what was anticipated 6 months ago. Even a month ago, most economists looking at the year 2016 pegged Canadian growth for the year at around 2%. That has already been downgraded to about 1.5%. Hopes of a rebound in the price of oil and the value of the Canadian dollar have instead been met with declines in both cases. Lower prices for oil and gas and continued decline in the value of the Canadian dollar present real challenges, as well as some opportunities for all parts of the Canadian economy, including for Prince Edward Island. Internationally, while the U.S. appears to be on course for a continued rebound, growth in the rest of the world will be muted. We need only look to China to see the extent that the shock to the international economy has already served in 2016. And of course, the United States is not immune to those global conditions. Howard Silverblatt, who is the senior index analyst at S&P Dow Jones Indices, said last week that the first 8 days of the trading year were the worst ever start to a year for U.S. equities. Silverblatt calculates, this is the number that's so big we're not used to hearing it around here, Silverblatt calculates that almost $3.2 trillion have been wiped off the value of stocks around the world since the start of 2016, and that was last Wednesday. And all of this has an impact on Prince Edward Island, whether it's pressure on our supply chains in which our global companies participate, or sales into export markets, or access to capital, or loss of jobs, notably in Western Canada. The state of the international and national economy has an effect on ours. We tend to think that our province is not a major player in determining the fate of the national and international economies. And in that, we're essentially correct. That said, the opposite side of the coin, that we don't really determine economic outcomes for Canada or the world, is that we have an advantage of scale. Many of you have heard me say, small can be big. Prince Edward Island does not need to be a victim or a follower of national or global economic trends. If we identify our best opportunities and work together to achieve the most that we can, the Prince Edward Island economy should be able to do relatively well, especially in challenging times. While we did not participate directly in the major booms of the past decade, which produced historic growth in Western Canada especially, Prince Edward Island's GDP for the past decade was competitive with the national average and consistently outpaced our sister provinces in the Maritimes. We can start by acknowledging that we have done very well against expectations that others might have for us, or perhaps that we might have for ourselves. And exceeding expectations is not a bad thing in any circumstance. Whatever happens in the national and international economies, PEI is going to require a strong spirit and a commitment to work together to achieve growth and to exceed expectations. Many Canadians would likely be surprised, perhaps many islanders and even people in this room would be pleasantly surprised to learn that our province's economy has grown at a rate greater than or close to the national economy since 2005, a 10-year record. In the mid-1960s, Prince Edward Island's provincial GDP per capita was 62% of the Canadian average. Today, our GDP per capita is more than 80% of the national average. To go from 62% to more than 80% in roughly 50 years is real progress. I've left a takeaway at your tables that has various ways of representing how Prince Edward Island has done in the past year, and I'll leave you to to see the correspondence between those charts and the remarks that I'll make. But in 2015, Prince Edward Island had the fourth strongest growth of any Canadian province. We had an exceptionally strong year in tourism, the best since the Confederation Bridge opened in 1997. We had the best year in a long time in the fishery after years of struggle, led by enhanced lobster landings and improved prices, which amounted to an additional $40 million in landed value at the wharf, not to mention significant further benefits when that money circulates, which it certainly does. Many segments of agriculture are doing well, as the world's appetite for food continues to grow, notwithstanding economic turbulence. On the document that's at your table, there are a number of points. First being that our GDP growth has led the Maritimes since 2011 and is projected by the Conference Board of Canada to do the same to the end of 2015 and again in 2016. Prince Edward Island has been an export leader going back to the early 1990s and led the country in both 2014 and 2015, with strong performance in both food products and consumer goods. We're third this year in manufacturing shipments after Nova Scotia and British Columbia. In employment growth, Prince Edward Island has led the Maritimes since 2011 and tracked national employment growth from 2005 to 2013. And not least of all, in average weekly earnings growth in 2015 to the end of October, we've led the country. And when we look at local economic indicators, we can point to the foundations or the elements of the year 2015 to give you a couple. New motor vehicle sales were up over 10% at the end of October. After some initial softening, housing starts were up almost 14% for the first 3 quarters, and building permits by value increased by 5%. These are signs that money is being spent and that economic impact is generated locally. The success that Prince Edward Island has seen in 2015 and that we should expect to see with the right elements in 2016 starts right here at home. It starts with entrepreneurial leadership, which is an essential ingredient of successful businesses or communities, and I might say community organizations. We only need to look around us to see where business leaders and entrepreneurs are working hard to grow their enterprises and to contribute to a more prosperous Prince Edward Island. And let me give you some examples. On Wednesday of last week, while most islanders were enjoying a snow day at home, Jim Bradley, the CEO and General Manager of Amalgamated Dairies Limited, who's with us this evening, great to see you, Jim, was hard at work announcing a new strategic alliance with Ontario's Galen Foods, which will provide enhanced opportunities for sales, for research and development, and for product development. ADL is a mainstay of our Prince Edward Island economy, with 250 employees and 180 dairy farmers and highly innovative value-added products. Congratulations to you, Jim, and to your team at ADL and to the dairy farmers of Prince Edward Island for this initiative and for creating this opportunity. On Thursday of last week, I traveled up to St. Peter's, where we met with a group of local entrepreneurs who were gathered, I might say on short notice, at the former St. Peter's School. That school has been transformed into a hub of community and economic activity under the leadership of Jim McCauley. And there are 23 people employed there, more than ever worked there when it was a school. Among those present was Karen Davies, who's owner-operator of the Inn at St. Peter's. And for the third year in a row, the Inn at St. Peter's has been recognized by the travel website TripAdvisor with the Traveler's Choice Award as one of the top 25 small hotels in Canada. That award recognizes Karen's entrepreneurial leadership and the efforts of her staff, and that leadership and those efforts by the staff are replicated by operations throughout the province, which are at the foundation of the successful year that we had in tourism in 2015 and that we look forward to in 2016. While at St. Peter's, I also met Hope Milner, and her husband Glenn. Their business, called Bohemian Findings, sells jewelry components over the internet. Hope and Glenn have 5 employees in addition to themselves, and they're working very hard. Their success can be measured by the fact that Bohemian Findings is the top-selling firm on Etsy, the global internet marketplace for handmade or vintage items, something that most people, I think, wandering in here tonight might not have expected to be here is taking place in St. Peter's, Prince Edward Island. Entrepreneurship starts young, and a good example of this is Chris Francis, who's also here tonight. Chris, at the age of 24, is the owner of the very active Receiver Coffee in Charlottetown. Last year, Chris was recognized by Junior Achievement Canada as one of 6 exceptional achievers across the country. Chris developed his knack for business through Junior Achievement here on PEI, and now is doing more than just selling good coffee, very good coffee. He's also featuring local suppliers, including Islanders to new products and introducing Islanders to new products from around the world and helping to build community here on PEI. Congratulations on that, Chris. Saturday night, we attended a terrific fundraising dinner in support of a Syrian refugee family that took place at the Elmsdale Community Center. This was a unique initiative on the part of 5 students from West Isle High School. The students, none of whom had previously peeled a potato, undertook to serve a dinner for 100 people. They had the enterprise and good sense to recruit well-known chef Emily Wells to head up the food preparation and show them how it's done and to do a lot of the work. And with the support of various suppliers and sponsors who were rounded up by the students, they raised more than $2,500, and they did a lot in the process to learn about future business and community leadership and to learn by doing. And of course, they wouldn't have done it without the talent and hard work and mentorship of Emily, who's also here with us this evening. And Emily is proving that you can run a successful 12-month food business in Prince Edward Island, rural Prince Edward Island, by continuing to operate from the Inn on the Mill in New Glasgow and combining it with Local 343 here in Water Street. Great work, Emily. And yesterday I had an uplifting meeting with Dr. Amarjit Jatana, who was the president and CEO of Canadian Nectar Products. And Dr. Jatana is here tonight with his wife and with Grumant Grewal, who is his business partner. They've had 30 years of experience in the apple business in United States, Chile, Quebec, and India. And their company has identified Prince Edward Island as a prime location to grow apples, mainly for the Indian and Asian markets. And along with the advantages of soil and climate that we know well, PEI has a further benefit that might not be immediately obvious to those of us who haven't been in the apple business. That is, that it's not necessary to build deer fencing, which can cost on the order of $5,000 an acre. So CNP already has 300 acres of Honeycrisp apples in the ground in Prince Edward Island, mainly in southern Kings County, but some of them right here in Charlottetown. That means they have the largest orchard in Atlantic Canada and the 4th largest in Canada, with dynamic plans for further expansion. Dr. Jatana will be in India when we travel there in early February with a 2-province trade delegation from Ontario and Prince Edward Island to visit 5 Indian cities. This trade delegation is another great example of how small can be big, as Prince Edward Island's smallest and largest provinces team up to show the rest of the country how to do business with the world. The best and most reliable way to grow our economy and to measure our growth is to reduce what I refer to as our trade gap, which in 2014 stood at $1.3 billion. That is to say, the difference between what we buy from outside the province and what we sell to the rest of the world from PEI. We still spend significantly more on goods and services imported from outside the province than we generate throughout a province sales. And it's very simple to see what a difference it would make to our economy to reduce or even eliminate that gap. And to do so, we must increase our exports and look for every opportunity we can find to spend more locally and to do business with each other. Prince Edward Island, as I've said, has been making great strides in international exports. In 2014, our international exports in merchandise exceeded $1 billion for the first time, reaching $1.12 billion. That was a growth of 22% by comparison with the previous year. And in 2015, Prince Edward Island has led the country in export growth with a 15% improvement to the end of November, which means that we will reach and likely exceed $1.3 billion in export sales in 2015, which will be more than 1/5 of our total economy. 3 of our top 5 merchandise export categories are food, and 5 of our top 10 merchandise export categories are food. Frozen food and seafood products represent almost 40% of our total merchandise exports. Our food producers are innovative and becoming more so, and they're exporting Prince Edward Island products around the world as we build our reputation as Canada's food island. Along with food exports, we've seen significant increases in exports from the biosciences, as well as aerospace and advanced manufacturing. We've also seen impressive activity and growth in innovation technologies and financial services. We have a new cluster in marine technologies. The diversification and continued growth of the PEI economy are essential if we're to have long-term economic success. The balance of industries, sectors, and types of businesses ensures that we are better protected from any significant sideways blows or hits in one area if we're diversified and strong across the board. And in fact, since the new government is formed in Ottawa, we've had people suggest that they want to come and see us to learn more about how Prince Edward Island made that turn to a diversified, balanced economy. It also provides more opportunity for the employment of a diverse, multi-skilled workforce. One of the things that we all have to keep in mind is that Prince Edward Island's population is getting older. While we are marginally younger than our regional neighbours, we are about 3 years older on average than Canadians across the country, and about 6 years older on average than 6 years older than the average resident of the prairies. That demographic profile has an impact on all aspects of our society and economy, including and notably on our labour market. In 2012, Prince Edward Island's core-aged working population peaked. While our population continues to increase, the reality is that we have more out-migration of young people and in-migration of older residents. With the challenge to build a better balance in our population and workforce, we have a commitment as a province and as a government to retain, recruit, and repatriate, led by our new Department of Workforce and Advanced Learning. We want to ensure that young people have the most and the best opportunities to stay and thrive on Prince Edward Island. Our wage story is positive for these young people. Prince Edward Island's weekly earnings continue to increase, leading the country to the end of October with 3.5% growth compared to last year. And part of the story that we have to tell ourselves and our young people is that there are job opportunities on Prince Edward Island and that they've changed. Today, we have far more opportunities for engineers, chemists, and technology experts as examples. The broader clusters of aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and marine technology has been a major game changer across the island, with companies like Vector Aerospace, Aspen Kemp, DME, McDougall Steel, and others leading to new opportunities and markets. Our bioscience cluster just marked a 10-year anniversary, with exciting new developments ahead in 2016 and just over 40 companies up and running in the sector. You could make the same analysis of our information technology sector. Altogether, those several sectors comprise and represent over 5,000 jobs. In these areas, we are growing and providing opportunities for skilled and talented islanders and for people to come here and join our workforce. They stand as proof that we've done a better job of developing a modern and diversified economy than is the case for many Canadian provinces. But we need to do more to build opportunities to retain, repatriate, and recruit. Next month, we will launch a new ignition zone on Lower Queen and Water Streets, just kitty corner from this hotel. This space will provide budding entrepreneurs with a business model and a space where they can learn and support each other to turn those ideas into new businesses. Modeled on the successful digital media zone at Ryerson University in Toronto, the Ignition Zone will help accelerate the startup culture on Prince Edward Island, ignite growth, and provide opportunity for young islanders. It will also provide an opportunity to support and encourage entrepreneurs of all ages, an essential ingredient to our continued success. We're also launching a new online destination called Work PEI, which will better match employers with employees and provide labor market information to better plan opportunities for those seeking workers and for those seeking a job. We recognize that we still have much work to do. We need to stay on pace with our approach to our population and to its growth and development, and that includes keeping and attracting younger people. We've witnessed the first arrivals of Syrian refugees, a great example of a community and government coming together. These families will be great contributors to our society and economy. In Kings County, the first of what will become a wave of Amish families who are purchasing farms and becoming established in the community have already arrived, with a total of 14 farms already acquired or in the process of being acquired, and families here or in the process of moving here. That's very promising, and it's the result of entrepreneurial leadership at all levels, starting in the community. In 2016, we'll continue to pursue opportunities to attract immigrants in all categories, as well as Canadians from other provinces, and not least of all, returning islanders. We will advocate for more temporary foreign workers and work to keep more international post-secondary students on Prince Edward Island after graduation. This year, 16% of UPEI students are from outside of Canada. A good way to think of economic growth in Prince Edward Island is to put it in real dollar terms. A 1% increase in our GDP is the equivalent of about $60 million. 2% would be $120 million. So a question for each of us could be, what can I do to ensure Prince Edward Island's economic growth and prosperity? And I genuinely believe that there's an opportunity for each of us to consider that question and to act. And it could be as obvious as to encourage someone that we know who's an islander who's away to believe that there are opportunities here for work or to come home and start something. Or another thing that we can do, and we can all do, is to act on what's increasingly, I might say, annoying to me, which is the reports about the inflation in food prices, which tends generally to be linked to a claim that we import our fruits and vegetables. At this time of year, each of us can go out of our way to eat local beets, potatoes, carrots, apples, parsnips, cranberries, cabbages. List could go on. We could be buying some seeds from Bev Simpson to get the garden started for next spring. We have some folks who are here tonight to see about buying some Prince Edward Island hamburger to distribute in Ontario and across Canada. And to go back to what I said about the fruits and vegetables, not only are they better for our health, they're better for our environment because they don't have to travel as far, and for our pocketbooks because we're not buying them with devalued dollars. Plus, need I add, we'd be helping to reduce our trade deficit. In 2016, we will see some large investments in infrastructure. The Prince Edward Island New Brunswick electric transmission cable will be installed in the fall and will bring about $45 million in economic activity locally in 2016. Work is being done in conjunction with the new federal government to develop a full infrastructure plan for Prince Edward Island to include better transportation, enhancements to water and sewer facilities, and advancements in green energy and in social infrastructure. Some of these projects will start in 2016, bringing new economic activity to the province and laying a foundation for long-term sustainable growth. Increasing our exports and working with enterprises to enhance sales of Prince Edward Island's quality products and services will continue to be key priorities in 2016. We will continue to encourage and support Prince Edward Island companies to take their products to the world via sales PEI, and there are a number of people here who will take part in the delegation to India coming up next month and in others through the year. This includes a focus on Europe, and there will be a joint delegation among the 4 Atlantic provinces on a trade mission to Europe in June to position ourselves to take full benefit of the upcoming trade deal with Europe. And we will, of course, remain focused on our largest trading partner, the United States, notably with the benefit of the low Canadian dollar. As I mentioned, the trade mission to India features the groundbreaking partnership between Prince Edward Island and Ontario, and we're certainly not overlooking the possibility that we may be able to have a lot of business done by the time we land in Delhi, with 90 participants from Ontario and 10 from Prince Edward Island. And we're not overlooking China, although growth has slowed. A lot of that, insofar as it affects Canada, is in the area of commodities, but there's a great opportunity, and one that Prince Edward Island's in a position to take advantage of, to provide services or other goods of interest to a growing Chinese middle class that will continue to grow. We're committed to helping new companies who want to get into the business of exporting around the world. And this month we will launch a 6-part export readiness program. 15 companies have already subscribed and are eager to get underway with this new program. One of the most critical underlying challenges for Prince Edward Island, as has always been the case, is to believe in ourselves and to speak well of ourselves and of each other. We've spent too long in PEI thinking of ourselves as a have-not or a have-less province and approaching our economy in that spirit. In our political and community life and in our respective leadership roles, it is essential that we call on our better nature and we put the Rotary motto to use and serve one another and succeed together. This will have a critical impact on our economic well-being and success. If we don't think well of ourselves, and if we don't speak well of each other and expect to prosper and do well together, why should others have favorable expectations of us? One area where we are committed to doing well in 2016 is in our management of the public purse. In April, we will bring down an operating budget that aims to get to balance in 2016-17. We are on track to achieve that, but I can assure you it won't be easy. On the capital front, our debt-to-GDP ratio continues to trend downwards, as you will see in that document at your tables. We intend for that to continue, and as with our overall objectives for the Prince Edward Island economy, to do better than the Canadian average. Prince Edward Islanders have the ability to work together with confidence and with a strategic sense about where we can succeed. As I said at the outset of this talk, we can and should expect ourselves to do better than the Canadian average, and in fact, that's the only way we're going to catch up. This is the target and the approach that I've asked our Cabinet and our colleagues in the legislature and government departments to pursue. This will require the hustle and focus of all of us in public office and in government. working together with the island business community and with clients and trading partners around the world. To achieve this, I have asked the ministers and deputies of our lead economic departments, economic development and tourism, finance, workforce and advanced learning, and agriculture and fisheries, to apply a hub model to work collaboratively to pursue new opportunities for economic and job growth in our province. And I'm proud to say that we have virtually the entire cabinet and a very strong representation from the legislature here this evening. Given the importance of this issue of doing well with our economy and having this hub model get going right away, I will chair this group myself in 2016. In March, we will be convening another economic forum where our Board of Economic Advisors will come together with leaders from across Prince Edward Island to engage around opportunities to grow our economy together. Notwithstanding national and global challenges, the outlook for Prince Edward Island's economy for 2016 must be one of rejuvenation, resilience, and optimism. Leadership will be needed at all levels. That starts with each of us in this room tonight and those viewing on various platforms. And there's no question we have work to do. Prince Edward Island has a modern, well-balanced economy. We have high-quality products and services. We must hustle to make the next sale and to tie into new customers and supply chains. We must be attentive and give top priority to the rejuvenation of our population and the continued development of our workforce. With those commitments and ingredients in place, and with a shared sense of purpose and determination to succeed, Prince Edward Island will have a prosperous 2016. Let's work together. Thank you.